The chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. Planets with 1,000 different skies had sent their voices here. Creatures of light, gas, and stone stood inside shimmering pods. They had gathered to decide the future of a small blue world called Earth. In the middle of the chamber a hologram floated, images of human ships, small and clumsy, pushing beyond their sun. The speaker of the council, a tall being of crystal and sound, raised its arms. Its voice was soft but reached every corner of the hall. This species grows too fast. It breaks limits. It spreads like fire. It does not listen to warnings. The council members murmured. Some nodded. Others shifted nervously. A few looked away from the human images as if the light itself burned their eyes. At the edge of the hall stood one quiet observer, a gray-skinned envoy named Seraik. He had visited Earth once, disguised among the humans. He had watched them build, fight, and dream. Now he whispered to the being beside him, "They will not accept threats. You must know this. If we warn them, they will not bow." The speaker's crystal body flickered. "We do not want them to bow. We want them to stop. They must stop before they tear the galaxy apart." Outside, beyond the walls of the council station, stars drifted like frozen sparks. Unknown to the council, a tiny human probe had already entered the outskirts of their system. Its signals were weak but steady. Deep inside the probe a simple camera recorded the great station, sending its images back to Earth. No one in the hall imagined that the humans were already watching. Far away, on Earth, night covered the continents. In a hidden control room under the Atlantic, men and women watched the strange shapes appearing on their screens. They were scientists, soldiers, and explorers. Some wore uniforms. Others wore old clothes and tired faces. But all of them shared the same feeling, a mix of fear and wonder. "It's real," whispered one. "There's a whole council out there, and they're talking about us." A young technician named Aisha leaned closer to the feed. "They're warning us," she said slowly. "Look at their faces. They're not just meeting. They're deciding." Around her, the room went still. Everyone understood what that meant. Back in the council chamber, a vote was called. Threads of light rose from each pod, twisting upward into a glowing web. The result appeared above them. A warning would be sent to Earth. It would be the last warning. If ignored, action would follow. No one said what kind of action, but every being there knew. Seraik's eyes darkened. "They will not be afraid," he murmured again. "They will answer." "Then let them answer," the speaker replied. "But the stars will not tremble for them." On Earth the hidden control room shook with a sudden tone, an incoming signal. A column of shimmering symbols formed in the air, translated by their computers into simple words. It was not a greeting. It was not a request. It was a warning. "Stop your reach beyond your sun. You risk all. This is the final notice." The room's silence deepened. No one knew who should speak first. Then an older man, Commander Ruiz, stood. His voice was calm but heavy. "They think we will stop. They think fear will hold us back." He looked around at the faces, the screens, the maps of stars they had drawn for decades. "But you all know us. We're not built to stop." Aisha felt a cold thrill move through her. She saw not just ships and guns but something larger, the long memory of her species. Every time humans had been warned, threatened, or cornered, they had changed the game instead. She whispered, "We can't scare them. We can only surprise them." Across the ocean, governments received the same message. Debates started, secret and public. Some wanted to retreat, to avoid war with powers they could not understand. Others wanted to prepare for a fight. But beneath all the arguments there was a single pulse, quiet but strong. Humanity would decide for itself. In the council's far station, Seraik stood alone in his pod, watching the human probe slip away, carrying the council's image back to Earth. He felt a strange weight in his chest, like the start of a storm. He thought of human eyes looking up at the same stars. He thought of the small fire in their machines and hearts. For the first time in centuries he felt something close to fear, and also respect. On Earth the hidden room lit up with new orders. Messages moved across secure lines. Old projects, long kept secret, were opened. Blueprints of ships bigger than any before glowed on screens. "They warned us," Commander Ruiz said quietly. "Now we will answer." In the night sky, a single star seemed to flare brighter, though it was only an illusion. But for those watching, it felt like a signal. The countdown had begun, even if no one yet knew the shape of what was coming. The Council believed it had sent a warning. Humanity believed it had received a challenge. The space between those beliefs was where history would shake. Darkness covered the Pacific like a mirror. Above it, a new shape rose slowly through the clouds. It was not a plane. It was not a rocket the world had seen before. It was long and silver, its skin covered in black panels that drank sunlight. In the quiet dawn, workers and soldiers stood on a hidden platform, watching their work of years finally lift into the air. They called it Aurora 1. To them, it was a ship. To the world outside, it did not exist. Aisha stood on the edge of the platform, helmet under her arm. She felt the cool mist on her face and tried to breathe steadily. The Council's warning had reached every capital 2 weeks ago. News of it had not gone public. But the answer had begun at once. Projects buried in dusty vaults were opened. Engineers and pilots were called back from retirement. Governments that hated each other whispered together at secret tables. For the first time in history, Earth was building something as one. Commander Ruiz arrived beside her. His hair was wet from the fog, but his eyes were hard and awake. "This is not just a ship," he said quietly. "It's a message." Aisha nodded. "A message they won't expect." Inside the ship, corridors smelled of new metal and sealed air. Screens showed lines of stars. Each deck was crowded with quiet crews checking systems, running drills, writing last letters to their families. They had been told only this: "You may not return." None of them stepped back. Far away, on the other side of the solar system, the Council's warning beacon still pulsed. It had been designed to look simple, but it carried a deep scan of human activity. Now it fed the Council images of new launches, new signals, strange radio bursts. In the great chamber, the speaker's crystal form flickered again. "They prepare something," it said. "They pretend to listen, but they build." Seraik closed his eyes. He could almost smell the salt of Earth again, feel the strange warmth of its sunlight. "They are not pretending," he murmured. "They are deciding. They will bring ruin," another counselor hissed. "We must strike first." The speaker raised its arms for silence. "No strike. We gave them warning. We must wait until they cross the line. Until then, we only watch." Yet the Council did not know that humans had already crossed many lines. In underground labs, a technology once banned on Earth had been reborn. Fusion drives that could burn hotter than stars. Small weapons that could blind a fleet without killing a single being. A new kind of code that could slip into alien systems unseen. They were not preparing for defense alone. They were preparing for surprise. As Aurora 1 rose into orbit, its panels glowed. It carried no flags. Only a small symbol on its hull, a circle of 12 stars around a blue world. Aisha watched the curve of Earth drop away beneath them. She whispered to herself, "They think we're small. They think we're slow. They'll see." On the Council station, Seraik stood by a window of living glass. Out there, the human probe still moved, sending back faint whispers. Soon, he thought, those whispers would change. Soon they would not be whispers at all. He touched the glass and wondered if anyone on Earth could feel his warning across the void. Commander Ruiz walked the main deck of Aurora 1. Screens showed the system's edge, where the warning beacon floated. His crew waited for his words. He spoke softly, but each person heard. "We will not fire first. We will not run. We will cross their line. And when we do, we show them what Earth means." Below the deck, engines rumbled like a hidden storm. Outside, the stars were cold and bright. Somewhere among them, 1,000 alien eyes turned toward this small silver ship and wondered if it was madness or courage. Back on Earth, governments sent coded messages to families of the crew. Most said nothing of war. They spoke of research, of testing. But in secret, every leader knew this was a gamble. If Aurora 1 failed, humanity would be punished. If it succeeded, the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Aisha strapped into her seat. Her heart beat like a drum. She remembered her father showing her the night sky as a child. One day, he had said, those lights will not just be stars. They will be doors. She closed her eyes and thought, the doors are opening now. In the council chamber, the speaker's voice grew sharp. They are moving. They do not stop. They do not bow. When they cross the beacon line, we act. Threads of light twisted above the hall again, a new vote, a new plan forming. Some called for capture. Others for destruction. No one called for peace anymore. Aurora 1's engines flared white. It passed the orbit of Mars and kept going. The warning beacon ahead blinked its silent message, stop. But the ship did not slow. Its panels shifted, locking into a pattern never seen before. Data burst outward like a hidden flare, carrying one sentence to Earth and to the stars beyond. We are coming. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The Council had warned. Humanity had answered. What waited beyond the beacon, no one yet knew. The space beyond the beacon was dark and silent, yet it felt alive. Aurora 1 crossed the invisible line, its engines dimmed to a soft glow. Inside the ship, every sound seemed louder. The hiss of air, the creak of metal, the soft clicks of fingers on consoles. No one spoke unless they had to. Each crew member knew what this moment meant. The first humans had entered forbidden space. Aisha stared at the screen in front of her. The warning beacon was now a faint point of light behind them. Ahead stretched a field of stars she had never seen on any chart. She whispered, almost to herself, "We're in their world now." Commander Ruiz stood behind her. His face was unreadable, but his hands were tight on the rail. "Stay calm," he said softly. "Remember why we're here." They had a plan, but it was thin like paper. Aurora 1 would slip past the Council's watchposts, gather data, and send back proof that humans would not be caged. It was not a warship. It had no heavy weapons, only clever tools and hidden tricks. Its greatest weapon was its crew's willingness to risk everything. Far away, the Council's great hall blazed with activity. Alarms of shimmering light pulsed around the speaker. "They crossed the line," the speaker said. "Begin Phase 2. Across the chamber, Seraik felt a cold tremor run through his body. He had warned them. He had told them humans would not stop. Now the Council was waking its Phase 2, a plan written centuries ago for any species that broke the rules. He whispered to no one in particular. "Do not underestimate them. You'll make them stronger." 3 massive shapes began to move from the edges of a nearby nebula. Council interceptors, each one larger than a city, each one older than any human nation. They unfolded like dark wings, powered by drives older than Earth's pyramids. Their orders were not to destroy but to capture, to teach a lesson. Inside Aurora 1, a soft tone signaled a new contact. "Multiple signatures," Aisha said quietly. "Ahead, closing fast. Not drones. Big ships." The bridge went silent. Commander Ruiz looked at the screen, saw the long arcs of alien interceptors. He felt a strange calm settle over him. "They're coming," he said. "Just like we guessed." Aurora 1's crew went to silent readiness. Panels slid back, revealing strange devices built in secret labs, decoy pods, jammers, code needles. They had trained for this moment, but training was nothing like the real sky. The interceptors did not hail them. They formed a net around the human ship, moving with inhuman precision. Their hulls were blacker than space, but each glowed faintly at the seams, like a predator's teeth. A deep voice rolled through Aurora One's speakers, translated into plain Earth words. Stop. Engines off. You are in violation. You will be taken. Aisha's heart hammered. She looked at Ruiz. Orders. He did not answer at once. He walked to the front of the bridge, hands behind his back. He remembered Earth's oceans, the old stories of wooden ships facing great empires. He said quietly, "They think they're the ocean. We're the storm." On the council station, Saraik watched the interceptors closing in. He turned to the speaker. "Call them back. Do not push." The speaker's crystal body glinted. "We are not pushing. We are teaching." "No," Saraik whispered. "You are waking them." Aurora One's decoy pods launched without a sound, spreading like silver fish into the dark. They emitted ghost signals, copies of the ship's signature. The interceptors hesitated, scanning, adjusting. In that heartbeat of confusion, Aurora One's engines flared and it shot upward at a sharp angle, slipping between two of the giants. The interceptors turned, but their net was broken. On the bridge, Aisha felt weight press her into her seat. "We can't outrun them for long," she said. "We don't need long," Ruiz replied. "Just enough to show them." Behind them, the decoys detonated in blinding bursts of light, not explosions, but flares of coded data designed to flood alien sensors. For a few seconds, the interceptors were blind. Saraik saw the flashes on his monitor. He felt his breath catch. "They're not just running," he murmured. "They're learning you." Aurora One dove toward a small, uncharted moon hidden in the nebula's edge. Its surface was jagged ice and black stone. The crew locked onto a deep canyon for cover. The ship slid inside, engines cooling to darkness. Above them, the interceptors swept past, searching, scanning. Silence filled the ship. Everyone's ears rang. Aisha looked at Ruiz. "They'll find us." "Maybe," he said. "But we'll be ready." He opened a secure channel back to Earth. His voice was low but steady. "Phase 1 complete. We crossed. We survived. They came. We learned. Beginning Phase 2. Then he cut the line. On the council station, alarms still glowed. The speaker turned to the assembly. "They evaded our ships. No species has done this. They are dangerous," a counselor hissed. "They are determined," Saraik answered. "Dangerous comes next." Outside the small moon's canyon, the stars glimmered like waiting eyes. Inside the human ship, the crew prepared their next move. They were no longer just explorers. They were a signal, a test, a spark. The council had warned them. Now the galaxy would see what humans did with a warning. The canyon walls of the hidden moon rose like black knives around Aurora One. Ice dust drifted down, glittering faintly in the dim light. The crew had powered everything low. Screens glowed only as pale ghosts. It was not silence but a heavy waiting, like the breath before a storm. Somewhere above them, the council's interceptors moved back and forth, their sensors sweeping, their engines humming like faraway thunder. Aisha sat at her console, listening to the faint pulses of alien scans. Each pulse felt like a finger pressing against her skull. "They're close," she whispered. "They'll find us soon." Commander Ruiz leaned over the main display. His eyes moved across the terrain of the moon, ridges, tunnels, ice caverns. "We're not hiding," he said softly. "We're choosing the ground." They had studied this moon before launch. Under its crust was a cavern of strange metal crystals, natural or not they did not know. Its fields distorted signals and sensors. It was the only place in the region where Aurora One could vanish, even for a short time. Now it would be more than a shelter. It would be their stage. Far away in the council station, the speaker watched the interceptors circle. "They cannot hide forever," it said. "Bring the net closer." Saraik's gray hands trembled slightly. "They are not hiding," he murmured. "They are thinking." In Aurora One's dim bridge, engineers worked quickly, setting up small cylinders that hummed with a low tone. They were not weapons in the usual sense. They were code projectors, built to slip messages and illusions into alien systems. Earth had never used them in space before. Now they would try. Aisha's fingers hesitated over the controls. If this fails... It won't, Ruiz said quietly. Because we're not trying to kill them. We're trying to show them who we are. Above the moon, the first interceptor dipped lower, a shape larger than a mountain. Its shadow swallowed the canyon mouth. Inside its hull, alien minds watched streams of false data. The projectors on Aurora 1 were already working, weaving signals through the moon's metal veins, bending reflections. On the council station, monitors showed dozens of human ships where there was only one. Confusion rippled through the chamber. They multiply, a counselor cried. They bring a fleet. Saraik leaned forward. No, he said. They bring an idea. On the moon, Aisha's heart hammered. It's working, she breathed. The interceptor hesitated, scanning the canyon again. It launched a beam of light that crawled over the rock and ice, then drew back as if puzzled. Another beam shot outward, but it struck only echoes. For a moment the huge ship froze, like an animal unsure of its prey. Ruiz watched the screens. They're listening, he whispered. Good. He opened a channel, not in words but in pulses, a simple pattern copied from human radio of 100 years ago. A greeting, a warning, a question all at once. The signal went out from Aurora 1 like a heartbeat. The interceptors received it. The council received it. It was not defiance. It was a statement. We see you. We are not prey. On the council station, the speaker's crystal flickered. They send a signal. A challenge, one said. A hello, another guessed. Saraik's eyes darkened. Both, he murmured. Inside Aurora 1, the crew waited. If the interceptors fired now, the ship would be torn apart. There was no shield for that. Only the canyon walls and their own small tricks. Time stretched. Then the massive shapes above shifted slightly, their weapons dimming. No attack came. Instead a new pulse rolled through the canyon, deep and slow. A reply. Aisha's eyes widened. They're answering. Ruiz exhaled for the first time in minutes. Yes, they are. But the reply was not words. It was a complex pattern of light and gravity that made the ship's hull shiver. The translators struggled. Pieces of meaning flickered on the screen. Dangerous/stop/share/unknown. It was not a threat and not an invitation. It was something between. Ruiz closed his eyes. He saw again the faces in the hidden control room on Earth, the maps of stars, the silent vow that had brought them here. We've opened the door, he said softly. Now we find out what's on the other side. Above the moon, the interceptors moved back, forming a circle. In the council's chamber, arguments rose like storms. Some shouted for immediate destruction. Others for capture. A few, very few, whispered about negotiation. For the first time in centuries the council did not speak with one voice. Saraik looked at the speaker. You see. They don't bow. They don't run. They talk. If you listen now, you might still avoid a fire. The speaker said nothing. Its crystal body shone like ice in sunlight. Far below, in the canyon, Aurora 1's engines stayed cold. The crew stared at the strange reply glowing on their screens, trying to understand. Above them, alien ships circled. In the space between warning and war, a new path flickered, fragile, dangerous, alive. The canyon walls trembled with a low hum. Aurora 1 stayed dark, its hull absorbing the echo of the alien reply. On every console, the strange pattern of light and gravity still flickered, like a heartbeat from another mind. The crew sat frozen. They had crossed the line, tricked the interceptors, sent a signal. Now the galaxy was speaking back, but in a language no human had heard before. Aisha ran her fingers over the translation screen. Words blinked and vanished. Dangerous/stop/share/unknown. It's not clear, she whispered. It's not a threat. It's not peace either. It's warning itself. Commander Ruiz stood in the center of the bridge. His voice was low. They're testing us. They're waiting to see what we do next. Above the moon, the interceptors held their circle, weapons dim but not gone. Their hulls glimmered faintly as they pulsed to each other in silent patterns. Inside the council chamber, arguments rolled like thunder. Some counselors shouted to strike now, to burn the human ship before it spread its infection. Others hissed that the humans had done what no species had ever done, forced the council to hesitate. The speaker raised its arms for silence, but the chamber shook with voices. Only Sarike stayed quiet, his gray eyes fixed on the tiny that was Aurora 1. On the ship, engineers worked at low voices. They were building a second signal, deeper and slower, a mirror of the alien pulse but altered by human rhythm. Aisha typed quickly. If we answer wrong, they'll know we're faking. Sweat slid down her face. If we answer right. We move the line again, Ruiz finished. He thought of Earth, of secret bunkers, of leaders waiting for news, of billions who did not even know this was happening. For the first time he felt the weight of his orders like a stone. We are not here to start war, he told himself. We're here to show we are not afraid. Outside, the interceptors shifted, a slow tightening of the circle. They're closing, whispered a pilot. We're running out of time. Then we talk faster, Ruiz said. Aisha sent the new pulse. It went out from Aurora 1 like a ripple through water, a greeting built from mathematics, prime numbers, and a human heartbeat slowed to a deep drum. For a few seconds nothing happened. Then the interceptors froze. Their lights dimmed to black. The canyon filled with silence so thick it felt like weight. On the council station, the speaker's crystal body flickered violently. They respond, it said. They share. Around it the arguments died. Even the angriest counselors fell silent. The interceptors above the moon began to emit a low tone, like the start of a song. It carried no words, but every human on Aurora 1 felt it vibrate through their bones. It was not friendly. It was not hostile. It was a question. Aisha's eyes widened. They're asking us something. What? Ruiz demanded. She shook her head. I don't know. It's not numbers. It's like a map but not space. More like memory. Ruiz turned to the crew. Record everything. Send a copy back to Earth. If this is what I think it is. In hidden rooms under oceans and mountains, human analysts received the strange signal. Screens glowed. Algorithms churned. One old linguist whispered, it's not just language. It's history. They're showing us what they fear. Back on the moon, Aurora 1's hull trembled. Images began to form on the ship's inner walls, not pictures, but impressions. Great wars between unknown species, worlds burned to ash, machines gone wild. The crew saw flashes of alien ships breaking apart, of stars going dark. Aisha gasped. This is why they warned us. This is what they think we are. Ruiz closed his eyes. They're trying to scare us off. Show us their nightmares. Does it work? A pilot whispered. Ruiz opened his eyes. No. It shows us we're not alone in fear. He stepped to the console. Send this back, he ordered. Show them our memory. The engineers hesitated. Sir. Our history, he said. Not our weapons. Not our plans. Our memory. Show them Earth. Show them us. Aisha's fingers flew. Pictures and sounds streamed outward, the first human fires, music in caves, hands building shelters, children looking at the sky, rockets rising, footprints on the moon, cities rebuilt after wars, hands reaching across ruins. Not triumph, but survival. Not conquest, but stubborn hope. Far above, the interceptor's tone shifted, a long slow chord that vibrated through rock and metal. In the council chamber, the speaker's light dimmed, then brightened. They send themselves, it whispered. For the first time the crystal voice was soft, almost human. Seraik closed his eyes. "Now you see," he murmured. "They don't just fight. They remember." In the canyon, Aurora One's crew held their breath. If the interceptors fired now, there would be no escape. But no weapon came. Instead a new pulse rolled out, softer, slower, still unreadable but no longer sharp. A pause. A chance. Ruiz looked at Aisha. "We've opened a door they didn't expect. The question is what's behind it." Above them, the interceptors drifted slightly apart, as if making space. Their weapons stayed dim. Around the council, silence grew. For the first time in 1,000 years the council had no script. In the dark canyon of a forgotten moon, a small human ship had changed the pattern of the stars. The canyon was still, but Aurora One's crew felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes pressing on their hull. The interceptors hung above like frozen thunderclouds, weapons dark but ready. Inside, the screens glowed faintly with the last pulse from the council. Soft now, not sharp. It had not been a weapon. It had been a pause. Aisha rubbed her tired eyes. "They're waiting," she whispered. "For what?" Commander Ruiz stood near the forward window. Beyond the jagged ice he saw the stars, cold and bright, and the huge dark shapes circling. "For us," he said. "We stepped into their memory. Now they want to step into ours." She frowned. "We already sent it." "That was a glimpse," Ruiz answered. "They want more than pictures. They want to know what kind of fire we carry." He turned to the crew. "We're out of tricks. No more decoys. No more running. If this goes wrong we're finished. But this is the moment we came for." He rested his hand on the console. "Open the link. All of it." Deep inside the ship, engineers connected systems never meant to touch. Navigation, sensors, life support, and the strange code projectors. A single thread of human thought and data wound together. Words, songs, equations, images of oceans and cities, of storms and children, of rockets and ruins. It pulsed like a living heart. Aisha's voice shook. "If we do this, they'll see everything. Our weapons too." Ruiz nodded slowly. "Yes. That's the risk. But if we hide, we're only prey. If we show ourselves, we're something else." She pressed the control. A wave of data poured outward from Aurora One. Not a signal but a stream, wide and deep, racing up to the interceptors and beyond to the Council's Great Hall. For the first time in history, humanity spoke without hiding a single thing. In the Council chamber, the speaker's crystal body flickered violently as the human stream arrived. It filled the walls with images and sounds, laughter and riots, poetry and war, machines rising, hands rebuilding. Counselors recoiled at the flashes of fire and guns, but some leaned forward at the music and the small faces of children looking up at the sky. The chamber, always cold and sure, felt uncertain now. "They show everything," one whispered. "Even their violence." "They are not ashamed," another murmured. "They are not begging." Seraik stood silent, eyes bright. He felt something like a tremor run through the hall. Not fear, not anger, but recognition. "You asked what they are," he said softly. "Now you see." Above the moon, the interceptors received the stream. Their hulls glimmered with shifting lights. Slowly, very slowly, they began to move, not closer but apart, widening the circle. From their dark seams came a new pulse. It was not a warning. It was not a threat. It was an opening, a lattice of coordinates unfolding like a map in space. Aisha stared at it. "It's a course," she breathed. "They're giving us a path." "To where?" a pilot asked. Ruiz studied the pattern. "Deep into their territory. Past the station. Past everything we've seen." "Could be a trap," another whispered. "Could be a door," Ruiz said. On Earth, in hidden rooms, analysts stared at the same map blooming on their screens. Leaders argued in secure calls. Some shouted to recall the ship at once. Others whispered that this was the chance no one had ever had, to go beyond warnings, beyond fear. The final decision stayed with Aurora 1. Ruiz looked around the bridge. Faces pale, eyes steady. We've come this far. We can go back as the ones who ran, or go forward as the ones who tried. His voice was quiet but carried through the ship. We go forward. Engines hummed to life. The canyon shook. Above, the interceptors shifted fully aside, opening a narrow corridor between them. No weapons lit. No barriers rose. Only the faint pulse of the map ahead, waiting. Saraik watched from the council hall as the tiny human dot moved. They're following, he murmured. The speaker's crystal arms trembled. They are coming to us. No, Saraik said. They are coming to meet us. Aurora 1 rose from the canyon like a silver knife, its panels glowing faintly. It passed between the great alien ships. For a heartbeat, the crew felt the weight of alien energy brush against their hull, a power older than their world. But no strike came. Instead, the interceptors formed behind them, an escort rather than a net. Aisha's breath came fast. We're in, she whispered. We're actually in. Ruiz looked at the stars ahead, where the map's lattice stretched like a road of light. This is only the beginning, he said. Behind them the hidden moon fell away. Ahead, unknown space opened, deep and dark. Somewhere far beyond waited the council's heart, the place where no outsider had stood in 1,000 years. Humanity had crossed a warning. Humanity had survived a trap. Now humanity was being invited, or challenged, into the center of the galaxy itself. No one on the ship knew what waited there. Not peace. Not war. Something else. The stars themselves seemed to shift as Aurora 1's engines flared and the ship moved into the lattice. In the silence that followed, the Council and humanity both held their breath. The lattice of light stretched ahead like a river of stars. Aurora 1 moved into it slowly, every sensor alive. Around the ship the giant interceptors no longer circled but flowed with it, silent guardians guiding a single human vessel into the unknown. Inside the bridge no one spoke above a whisper. Every heartbeat felt louder than the engines. Aisha kept her eyes on the screen. The coordinates pointed to a single point of darkness in the middle of the galaxy. It's not a star, she murmured. It's a station. Huge. Commander Ruiz stood at the forward window. The station grew larger, resolving into a sphere of glass and metal so vast it swallowed planets. Threads of light spun between its layers, like a living web. The Council's true hall, he said quietly. Where decisions are born. The interceptors slowed. Aurora 1 glided between pillars of glowing metal and came to rest in a cavern bigger than any city. Around them hundreds of alien vessels hovered. Creatures of light, gas, stone, and water filled translucent pods, turning toward the human ship. Aisha felt the weight of their gaze through the hall. We're the first, she whispered. No one has ever stood here. A narrow bridge of light unfolded from the station toward Aurora 1. Its end touched the ship's airlock. No words, no weapons. An invitation. Ruiz looked at his crew. We came to show who we are. Not to kneel. Not to fight. His voice was steady. Open the airlock. The bridge hummed softly under their boots. It felt solid but had no weight. As they walked, Aisha could see the entire galaxy turning below the transparent floor. Her breath caught. One step wrong and we're gone, she thought. But this is what we came for. At the far end stood a figure of crystal and sound, the speaker itself. Around it hovered other beings, their forms flickering like smoke, light, and shadow. For a moment no one moved. Then the speaker raised its arms. Its voice came not as words but as a deep vibration inside their bones. You crossed the line, it said slowly. You refused the warning. You answered. Ruiz's throat was dry, but he spoke anyway. We came to tell you, we do not want war. We will not stop growing. But we can listen. We can learn. We can stand. The speaker's crystal surface rippled. Many species came here. They bowed. They begged. They broke. You send no plea. You send yourselves. Aisha felt the ground shift under her. Do you still plan to destroy us? She asked, her voice small but clear. The speaker was silent for a long moment. Then the light inside it dimmed. We feared you, it said at last. We saw only our own scars in you. Fire, war, hunger. We thought you would burn the stars as others did. We warned you, but you showed memory instead of weapons. That we did not expect. Ruiz took a slow breath. We have weapons too, he said. But we chose not to bring them here. The speaker's crystal cracked faintly, like ice under strain. That choice shook the stars, it whispered. It changes everything. Around them, the other beings shifted, their colors softening. A low tone filled the hall, not a threat, not a command, but a chorus. The council was speaking as one, but not in warning. The meaning came clear. Share/learn/watch/walk together. Aisha's eyes stung. They're offering us a seat, she whispered. Ruiz looked at the speaker. We'll take a seat. Not as rulers. Not as prey. As ourselves. For the first time in 1,000 years the council's heart pulsed with a new light. A small blue world's voice joined the chorus of the stars. The speaker lowered its arms. Then walk, it said simply. Back on Earth, hidden rooms erupted in stunned silence as the live feed arrived. Images of the council's true hall, of humans standing at its center, of alien light wrapping around them not as a cage but as a welcome. Across the planet, leaders and citizens felt something strange. Not fear, not triumph, but possibility. In the hall, Ruiz looked up at the vast ceiling of spinning light. We crossed your warning, he said quietly. We survived your test. Now we begin something new. Aisha stood beside him. She thought of her father pointing at the night sky. Those lights will be doors, he had said. She whispered. We opened a door. And it opened back. Beyond the council station the galaxy rolled on, countless stars burning. In that vastness, a single small ship had carried a single answer, and the stars had shifted. The warning had not stopped humanity. It had called it. And the answer was not just ships or tricks or courage. The answer was to stand and speak, to risk everything for the chance to be heard. As Aurora One's crew looked around the hall, they understood they were no longer only explorers or soldiers. They were the first step of a species walking into the galaxy not as shadow but as presence. The speaker's crystal body shone brighter. Welcome, it said. Now everything changes. And far away, on a blue planet under a familiar sun, humanity looked up at the night sky and knew the stars were no longer silent.